Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, a whole host of great engineers. Mark Persons, Michelle Vetterkind, who's the CEO of the Wisconsin Broadcasters, Patrick Berger, Alex Hartman, Chris Tarr, Josh Bone, Jim Ragsdale with the SBE, Shane Tovin, and Paul Kriegler. They're all my guests coming up on TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics with the Bionics Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. By Nautel, worry-free transmission you can count on with outstanding control, reliability, efficiencies, and Nautel's unmatched 24/7 customer support. Online at nautel.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts. Hi, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to the light bulb at the top of the tower. I'm Kirk Harnack. Looking for Chris Tarr. Has anybody seen Chris Tarr? No. Chris, you get out here. He'll be here in a minute, I think. Maybe. He probably stopped at the coffee machine. And I'm glad you're here. Where am I? I'm in the Telos Alliance station van.
It's a very impressive, by the way.
I'm looking for the prize closet. You know, where's all the T-shirts and towels and plush toys and giveaways?
The whole place is a huge, gigantic broadcasting toy. I love it.
You know, that's how about a plush toy Omnia 9? That would go over.
Oh, sure, yeah. Sure. You just put one in my pocket. So.
or a plush toy console. That'd be cool. So we're in Madison, Wisconsin. And while I'll let you, Mark, this is Mark Persons. Mark's been my friend for, I don't know, about 150 years.
Closer to 200, actually. But always fun to be on TWiRT. Yeah. I'm sure you'll like to see that one. I'm serious, because you'll see in the episode that at age 15, I installed this same model of equipment.
I was going to say, not only do we have a quick 2.5-minute tour of some 19-core equipment, we'll also have a 2.5-minute tour of the engineer who installed it.
That's right. and what a memory trip that was to see this equipment, which I never thought I'd ever see again.
Well, that's coming up on TWiRT. About halfway through the show, we'll run it, you and Jim Ragsdale with SBE.
That's right. And Jim's a wonderful guy and a good promoter for SBE, the Society of Broadcast Engineers. I've been a member forever, and now I'm a senior member because I'm a retired guy. But that doesn't mean I don't come out to shows like this to talk to people and even learn more.
As a senior, what's the level you reach when you don't have to pay your dues anymore?
That's it, senior.
It was life.
It's a lifetime thing, and that's exactly it. I mean, I can be a member and not have to pay anything. But it's so good just to be involved with the people I've always been involved with, because radio is my life.
Mark Persons, a receiver of accolades and awards and author of many articles. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again in about a half hour, right?
Thank you.
All righty. Mark Persons, always humble, making room for more guests. It's This Week in Radio Tech, episode 614. And by the way, our show is brought to you in part by our friends at Nautel. Nautel is doing something for the broadcast industry all the time. And of course, they have their Transmission Talk Tuesday roundtable events. Those start back up again in November. For now, though, you should go to the Nautel website at nautel.com and avail yourself to the resources. You look at the website, across the top, there's a resources drop down. You can choose from videos, white papers, how-to papers, just all kinds of things, spec sheets and ebooks and customer stories and tools. There are tools there to help you estimate your coverage area based on Longley Rice algorithms. So a lot of cool stuff there at Nautel. Stay tuned. We'll listen to us. We'll tell you when the Nautel Transmission Talk Tuesdays return. You can get registered for them just like I do and just like Chris Tarr does. Well, folks, we have just upped the environment here by about 3,000% with Michelle Vetterkind. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Kirk. How are you?
I'm terrific. It's so good to see you.
It is so good to see you.
Now, you made some opening remarks this morning, and I was getting ready for my presentation. I was so nervous I didn't hear what you said. So tell us what you talked about this morning in front of all these engineers.
Well, I just said how wonderful it is to welcome everyone to the 66th Broadcasters Clinic.
Wow.
And we are so happy to be back. We did have Broadcasters Clinic last year, but this one we figure we are truly back to normal, our normal time, excellent attendance. We have, I think about 240 people in attendance from, I want to say it's 25, 26 different states. We could not be more proud. We have so much support. Thank you so much for your support. We're thrilled to be here.
I'm glad that you just saved us a parking place out here.
Well, I think you have the best parking place there is, quite frankly.
This show is a 3-day show, right?
Yes.
And tell me about how each day runs. What's each day for?
Okay. Well, tomorrow is basically today would probably be, I guess you'd say, a little more radio centric. And then tomorrow we really have the combination radio and television. And then Thursday would be focused a little more on television. Okay. So, yes.
Wisconsin Broadcasters has other events through the year. Me being an engineer, I've only been to one of your other events, but just give us a little thought. What are some of your other events that WBA does?
Oh my gosh, we have, let's see. We start out with our winter conference, our state legislative day. We have a wonderful student seminar where we bring in students from the surrounding states. We have a 3-day Walker Broadcast Management Institute in connection with the University of Wisconsin. We have our awards gala. We actually have the largest awards program in the country.
Wow.
And then we have our 3-day summer convention and our Media Technology Institute. We have our sports workshop. We have our broadcasters clinic, of course. And then once in a while, we'll throw in fun things like maybe a debate or two.
So I've been here a few times, but I'm still not entirely acclimated to Wisconsin. I'm told that tonight I should order something. But something about, you guys call them brats and some kind of curds. What is this they're talking about?
Cheese curds, our own personal arsenal, I guess, if you will. That's truly how we bring people to Wisconsin. It's how we get people to judge our awards. We will send cheese curds. Yes, tonight it will be a feast of beer, of course, brats, and cheese curds. Our signature items. It's going to be a great night.
So thank you for spending a few minutes with us. When you go home, be sure you say hi to the wonderful man in your life who shares my name, Kirk.
Yes, and we'll never forget the time I accidentally tagged you on our anniversary, and I think you were across the world or something, and you were woke up in the middle of the night by ding, 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 ding on your phone. So
I had to tell my wife, no. That's really, no. I don't live 2 lives.
Exactly. Happy anniversary, dear.
Michelle, thank you so much. It's great to see you. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Michelle Vetterkind, are you executive director, president? What's your title?
President and CEO.
Oh, president and CEO. Well, there we go.
C-suite. Yeah. C-suite.
Made her own C-suite, ladies and gentlemen. All righty. With the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. Thanks again. Who is next on our coming up here? It's This Week in Radio Tech. We're waiting for Chris Tarr to make his appearance. I know he's here unless he had an emergency to run off to. We'll see. Here comes Patrick Berger. Hey, Patrick, how you doing? Good to see you, man.
Nice seeing you.
How are you? Didn't I sit close to you at lunchtime across the table?
Yeah, and you survived. You're good. Congrats.
That was actually a good lunch.
Very good lunch.
They have good food here.
Well, it's Wisconsin. Of course they have good food.
and it wasn't beer brats and cheese curds.
That will be tonight.
That's
yes.
Well, tell me about what you're doing here. What's keeping you busy?
Well, I am on the committee and setting all this up, and I do a lot of mic running. So I'm the guy running with the mic, but I'm also the host this evening for the Nuts and Bolts.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm the host. So Tim Wright will be the presenter.
Oh. Okay.
But I'm the one that keeps the show going.
Tim is an amazingly clever engineer, and clever's not even smart, clever, whatever words you can put around those things.
Yeah, I've been blessed to be able to work with him now for multiple years. I met him in 2001 when I was with a different company, and we were at the same and building facilities in Milwaukee. So he's very meticulous and very good at what he does, and a great encyclopedia of knowledge on anything.
It seems to me, you're at Cumulus in Chicago.
Correct.
I have seen some pictures of your studios, but I haven't been there. It seems to me you've got some studios that just are visually stunning.
Yes, they are. And it's interesting. We built those in 2016, and a lot of them have already been changed in purpose, just because, changes. COVID, format changes, personality changes, things like that. So, but they were very universal. So it's just easy. Move them in. few keystrokes for differences that the announcers and people want, and it's done, and it works great.
So as an engineer, you've been around a while, yeah. What? And I'm not. Promise you, I'm not loading your lips with AOIP, of course. What technology or technologies have helped you as an engineer to provide the facilities that talent needs to do a good job in the last few years?
Well, going with this all digital setup and all that, and just the wiring of a studio goes so much faster, and augmentation of a studio goes that much faster. I came from a different plant where everything was the usual hardwired routers and all that, but I mean, it was individual wiring, soldering on XLRs and things like that. Plugging in dongles now, running Cat5. It makes it that much quicker. I was a little skeptical at the beginning because I came from AM, and obviously with AM, we're always like, well, there's going to be RF going to be getting into that.
Yes. Yeah.
Haven't had an issue ever, and it's great.
It's funny you bring that up. One of the first uses of audio over IP, I was at a station in California that had 2 AM transmitters on site, and just miles of wire that was left over from previous, and they had horrible AM audio cross modulation getting into their streaming computer, and they were just going in with the little 1/8-inch jack. Of course it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I suggested put a network card in there and feed it with audio over IP. We were just getting started with audio over IP. This was in the mid 2000s. They did that, and they said it's a miracle. It just works.
I mean, the bonded pairs, twisted pairs, I mean, it makes a big difference in the world of RF.
Where did you come up in the AM world? What did you do there?
My first job was at WNAM in Neenah, which Cumulus now owns. I started as an announcer production guy, graduated, and they said, hey, we got a CP to improve our FM and then also make the AM both 5K day and night. You want to be part of it? Okay, so I was part of it. Built it with an engineer by the name of Bob Gorjans way back when. And since then, just kept building. Everywhere I go, I built new tower sites and new studios. Every place I've landed, I'm like, okay, well, I'm due back in probably another 10 years to do it all over again.
If you were to mentor an up-and-coming engineer, what area do you think you'd like to focus on with that engineer? What do you think people should be learning?
Well, the new ones, it's mainly RF. I mean, it's easier for these youngins to go to school for all IT, learn it online, learn it on YouTube. It's a different beast than RF because even RF has been simplified with solid-state transmitters. It's safer for people to work in and things of that sort. But AM is still AM, and it's still all there, easy to be influenced by anything going on. So AM RF is really hard sought after knowledge that people really need to concentrate and learn again.
Good deal. I appreciate your wisdom on that. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to take a break right now. Just hang on right here. Sure. We're going to hear from our friends at Broadcast Bionics and the Bionic Studio. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter and display all platforms in one place and post text, images and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry or online. anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
Thanks to Broadcast Bionics and the Bionic Studio for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. I love the folks at Broadcast Bionics. Duncan and Dan, Kirsten, everybody there is just amazing people. And the developers they have there, Chris Voce is there and does the Voce Clock, just great stuff. So thanks to have them on our show, sponsored This Week in Radio Tech. Also, I've been to a number of stations in London where they like try all their new stuff. Yeah. Oh man, amazing.
We have it at WPR.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
what kind of things do you have?
The call screener stuff and X screen and stuff like that. So, because being a network, doing that from 6 different locations is a little bit more challenging because we have a lot of remote workers and stuff like that. So yes, it has been a godsend during the new world order of post-pandemic.
The voice you hear and the face you see is that of Alex Hartman. Alex, welcome into the show. Good
Thanks,
to see you.
Good to see you too.
You were in the morning session this morning.
Yep, I was.
Yeah. Didn't throw any tomatoes at me, although you were looking like you wanted to.
Yeah, little bit. I mean, it's hard being an IT background guy coming into broadcast, unlike a lot of other people who, go the other way. So when you start talking about containerization and virtualization, it's like, Telos makes a lot of really neat products that can do these things, but no one tells you how to implement properly, what you have to watch out for, what the caveats are, how your environment really has to work to make these things function. Because in a containerized world and in a virtualized world, now you mix the two together, you can end up in a world of hurt. So you got to be very careful on how you implement and design that network.
I was noticing you separately use the word containerization and virtualization, and you live in both of these technical areas. First of all, would you help me understand in your world, because you do come from a really, I would call it a hard tack IT background. You know what hurts because you've tried the 18 ways that don't work,
right?
And tried breaking the way that you found that does work. When you say virtualization and containerization, how do you differentiate?
So in a virtualization, it's only one layer removed from the hardware. So in that, you have a hypervisor, whether it be VMware or Hyper-V or something like that, on your hardware that manages all your virtual machines for you. So you're only one layer removed. Now, if you put a Linux distribution like the Telos Ubuntu stuff to put in like IQS or VXS or 9S and stuff like that, it goes into a container which uses the underlying OS at the same time. So now you're 2 layers removed, and Docker specifically and containerization has its own networking that also goes into the VMware networking. So you're 2 layers removed from that. So you have to keep track of how deep the rabbit hole goes to make it function properly.
Now, you're very much a VMware expert, right?
Expert is a stretch, but we use it on a daily basis. It runs all of Wisconsin Public Radio. We have 8 servers that run about 150 containers and virtual machines.
Now, I try really hard not to pass myself off as an expert because obviously I'm not. I've made some of these systems work. And one of the things that my colleagues recommend is that if you're just getting into this, don't use a hypervisor, but rather just use a bare metal box, put Linux on that, put your containers in that. Is there anything really wrong with that idea? And I know it's not the world you live in, but is it wrong to do that?
No, it's not wrong to do that. It's great for labbing up how you want your environment to work when you put it into production. So you need to know how that functions before you start adding layers of the onion, so to speak, right? So now you know how it's supposed to work. And now here's why it broke. And you start digging in deeper. It's like, Mac VLAN versus NAT versus what's VMware passing. Are you passing hardware directly to the VM that's running containers and stuff like that? So some of that needs that. Other things that you have to watch out for. But running it on the bare metal, not the worst thing in the world. In production, the survivability is the key, right? I mean, a lot of guys don't. In IT, we build in redundancies out of the gate. In radio, it's kind of an afterthought, and something bad has happened. That's why you have a backup now. So you have to be a little bit more forefront with, if you have one, you should buy two, because eventually you will have to patch that hardware box. How do you stay online and keep your station on the air at the same time while you have to patch security patches, for instance, or software updates or anything like that? How do you do that? Well, you have to have two.
Yeah. Well, then that brings up a question, because I'm inexperienced in VMware. I've done a little bit of it. So does that imply that the hypervisor rarely needs to get patched?
Rarely, yes. I mean, there is a patch schedule for VMware itself, and VMware dictates those upgrades and stuff like that. And it's can be horribly complex, but they try and make it as painless as possible, because, well, we only have 8 to 10 hosts as WPR, and that runs, a statewide network. Someone like Netflix, who has hundreds and thousands of hosts, trying to patch those systems, they have to do a rolling upgrade, and they have to make it as painless for those customers, just the same as they do for you and me.
As long as it don't interrupt my Spider-Man movie, I'm fine.
Right. It'll find its way home. Don't worry. So those are the caveats you have to start watching out for when you start dealing with containerization and virtual machines. It's the eggs in a basket factor. You look at a hardware Omnia 9, you only have one of, but you also have a Volt as your backup, for instance, or something else.
By the way, sorry, go ahead.
So, but if you run like 9S or Forza or anything of the sort, that's a container that's running on a different piece of hardware. Again, the fans do fail. They're mechanical. Power spikes happen. How do you survive that? You need to have that contingency built in from the forefront, not as the afterthought.
Alex is one of the few people in the world who has spent time in Thailand at a certain development lab. From here, he's going to take over the world. What can you tell me about your adventures in the development world there?
So
very little.
I've learned that once you know how sausage is made, you never want to eat sausage again. Because it is tedious being in the manufacturing industry and going through that process change and figuring out parts, what works, what doesn't. The 99 failures for the one success. But learning how software developers think and act, and they want to make a product, whether it be a console or an audio processor or a microphone in front of you. How do you do that? Well, the engineer has a completely different way of holding that microphone than the guy who has to use it every day. So those kinds of things of like, what kind of switches do I have to buy, and how many times can I press that switch before the switch fails? That takes time.
So what I was noodling toward is something you said you wanted to talk about a bit, and that's a software audio processor that you are very familiar with. Talk to me about that.
So 9S is
the Omnia 9.
The Omnia 9 Enterprise 9S is the full name. It's a mouthful, but it is everything the hardware is and then some. Licensed properly, all you would need is, I believe that you can do up to 64 processing instances of 9S. And licensed properly, you just buy MPX nodes, and now you've got 64 transmitter sites conceptually, and don't do this for real, in one box. Yeah. So again, you can, with the VMware and survivability, all your processing is stored safely in a data center of some kind, power conditioned, backed up, air conditioned, comfortable spot for the computer, and then the things that are made to go out in the field go out in the field. So instead of replacing a $15,000 processor because the boss won't let you buy air filters, you only have to replace a $2,000 X node.
And just to be clear, you're speaking of an architecture where you have the Omnia 9S processor, many instances perhaps in a server, could be in the cloud, and we're going to do a stereo generator in there, and we're going to put out a stereo multiplex transmitter, nearly transmitter ready signal over IP. It's going to leave the data center and be directed to a transmitter site where there's a one piece of hardware called the Omnia MPX node. I've installed a few of these myself.
I'm still waiting for mine.
So well, I got a special factory connection.
You know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy. Anyway, actually, I bought mine before they became short.
Right.
But that's how you feed to your transmitter site. And if I'm not mistaken,
remove all the stuff from the transmitter site that doesn't have to be there. It's a harsh environment.
And you can have multiple IP paths.
Yep.
Why is that important?
Well, as Welton's joke goes, if you get lost in the woods, you carry around a piece of fiber optic cable in your pocket, and you just lay it on the ground. In about a half hour, a backhoe will come find it for you. So the need is that is a thing. And so your diverse paths, whether you use like a Max Connect for your secondary path or Starlink or cable modem, as long as it doesn't come across the same pole, you have a redundant path. So if something happens at that last mile, you can stay on the air some way, somehow. So the powers of three, if you're getting to the point where you need 3 different backup systems, you probably have a much larger problem.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I can't cure Mother Nature and wildfires out west, hurricanes down south. That's just Mother Nature doing what she does best.
Right.
But you as the broadcaster can try and mitigate these problems as best as you can. And yes, they do come with a cost, but what's the cost of your ad time? What's downtime cost to you? And that's where these redundancies have to come into play nowadays.
I want to know one more thing about the way you think and the way you approach your technical life. You're good at breaking things, and you even brag about that. And manufacturers should appreciate that.
Right.
I guess there may be limits. You may go past the limit. I don't know.
So,
How many manufacturers have said, Alex, nobody is going to do that?
all of them, and then they release the product, and every one of them does.
Yeah.
So
yeah, your approach to breaking.
right. My approach to breaking things is show me how you're supposed to do it, and I'll diverge for a second. So we just did a firewall migration, right? We went from one brand of firewall to another at Wisconsin Public Radio, and we copied the configs, did months and months of research to figure out what needed to be there, how it was going to be configured. We employed an integrator to come in and make sure we did it right. And then we did the switch Saturday night at lowest downtime at 1 a.m, and everything was fine when we came back up. Lo and behold, 6 a.m. Monday morning, when the people come back to the office, they find everything we forgot about.
Oh.
So like we were having, all of our workstations, for some odd reason, they would open up a web page and then they'd lose internet for 90 seconds. Like, what's going on here? Well, there was a setting that if you open more than 100 connections, which is easy to do if you just go visit YouTube.
Yeah.
And if you open more than 100 connections, IP connections from the same IP, within 10 seconds, it shut down the IP from internet access. Things you wouldn't find being in the background trying to configure this hardware unless you were forced to do that in daily life. Yeah. So every one of our users let us know what we did wrong. Just like a manufacturer, they'll let you know what you did wrong. Yeah. So it's a two-way street, right? The IT guy gets blamed for the same thing the vendor gets blamed for. It's the same thing the customer gets blamed for. So when you start working around in that circle, that's how that works. I think Chris Tarr's bribery with the Canadians.
He can come. Alex, thank you so much for your thought. It's always good to hear the way you think about things. It's a little different, and it's much appreciated.
No problem.
Okay, take care.
You too.
That's Alex Hartman with Wisconsin Public Radio. I'm Kirk Harnack here on This Week in Radio Tech. It's our 614th episode. Look who's here, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have arrived.
You have.
I have.
Style.
Yeah, it's been great.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Right?
No.
When's the beer and brats and cheese curds?
We got plenty of that here. You're going to wipe us out, I have a feeling.
So I heard.
Yes.
Hey, it's actually time for us to take a quick little break before we continue on.
Okay.
And we're going to be talking about broadcast tools.
Okay.
And I think you have a broadcast tools product of some kind
I have several
that you like.
I do, yes.
And let's see if we can talk to, say, Suncast. I believe we're ready to see a broadcast tools page. And Chris, whatever you randomly bring up, Chris is going to tell you how wonderful it is.
Actually, right there is what I was going to bring up.
That's
is
right.
The Audio Sentinel 4.
Yes.
Yeah, we have, actually, I just bought 4 more of those. And what's great about them is they're a web interface, and you can adjust the audio gain in the web. So instead of a turn pot, hoping that you get the right level, and not really, because we've had that where we get false alarms because the threshold is just above where the trim pot is or just below where the trim pot is, and we get false alarms. This one, you can see directly in the software the audio level coming in. Plus, it's got the Studio Hub built in. So we have an Axia X node. We just do a Cat5 patch cable between the two.
So wiring is like simple.
It literally took me 5 minutes to put it in.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that quick.
And you were asleep and it still worked.
Oh, yeah. No, it would have been, if I was awake, it probably would have been like 3 minutes. But 5 minutes because I was sleeping. But yeah, it's a great product. I love it. We've bought more of them, and that's kind of our go-to now for silent sensors.
All right. That is from Broadcast Tools, and it is called the Audio Sentinel 4 web-based analog silence detector.
That is correct. It's a mouthful, but
It is. And web-based means you can access it. It's got a user interface.
it's got a user interface, plus it will email out. So we actually have this really cool thing, and I'll have to bring it up at another show sometime, that can take an email message based on that, make a phone call. So we can have it alert us that way too, and read off which station is silent. So you can tie that all together. It's really awesome.
I wonder what kind of voice you could put on that.
I think there could be some fun voices.
Maybe
I got to look into that.
Maybe on the country station. Hey, Roa Jean.
Hey, y'all are quiet over there. You guys need to raise the roof a little bit.
You need to tell Garth to get up there and sing.
I don't know about you, but I'm falling asleep over here.
Okay. If you need to get anything from Broadcast Tools, you know where you need to get it from, and that's Broadcasters General Store, BGS. You need to give them a call. Their phone number is 352-622-7700. 352-622-7700. You can call them right now and say, hey, I just heard about Chris and Kirk talking about you on TWiRT. What have I won?
They got one of them fancy internet things on their World Wide Webs.
Yeah.
Get on the Googles. In fact, they're here at the show too.
They are. I was talking to, they have a new general manager, Shane Finch.
Yep. I know Shane.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Great guy. And great service too. I order all my stuff through them.
I love how we used to do commercials. We used to say, now they're on the internet at www.
http:// Yep.
You can just type bgs.cc and you'll get there.
CC.
What's that?
What's that?
Well, they couldn't get com.
There you go.
It was taken.
And they have a fancy new website. Check it out.
And I was in a meeting with Shane Finch, their new CEO, and of course Dave Kirsten is here. There are plenty of people here from Broadcast General Store.
This is the place to be.
But this is or BGS is.
This is.
Yes.
That's why they're all here.
Everybody's here.
Nobody parties like Wisconsin.
I hope no stations go off the air because the engineers are all here.
Oh yeah, I've always used to say if there's something happened in this building, there would be, like, the state of Wisconsin would be radio silent. Because we're all here.
Let's hope nothing goes wrong in the building.
Right.
All right. Thanks a lot, Broadcaster General Store, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Let me check with our show wrangler, Paul Kriegler. Paul, is there anybody on deck, or am I talking with Chris for a few minutes? All right. Hey, Welton would be great. As if he doesn't get enough FaceTime.
Right, yeah. No, and if we can get him up here to tell more of his corny jokes, that would be fantastic.
Speaking of corny jokes, I'm going to need you around for the next spot break as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was kind of surprised you didn't really have any dad jokes today. I was a little disappointed.
Sorry.
You kind of shot them off to me when I got there, and then you got up on stage, and there was nothing.
I told a joke. I'm narrating. I'm emceeing a thing at my church this week, and we had a practice last Sunday. And I told a joke that I thought was hilarious.
Oh, I see.
Totally clean, totally a church joke. But afterwards, our choir director, who I respect immensely, came up to me and said, yeah, not everybody thought that was funny.
Just stick to the script. That'd be great. That'd be great.
Well, the script says tell a couple jokes.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Well, then you're safe as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So have you talked about what's been going on today here?
No, why don't I was waiting for you.
Oh, okay. It's been fantastic. I would say today is the day of virtualization. I think just about every one of the presentations today was about virtualization, either with automation or consoles or phone systems. And it's been really fascinating. Now we're a little bit at Magnum, we're a little bit ahead of the curve on the virtualization. We're doing a lot of that already, but it's just amazing how all of a sudden that became a thing. And I know Alex would say he's been doing it for years and years. And we're one of the only industries that really hasn't really started getting into that yet. So, I was very interested in your presentation and, with just some of the things that we're going to be able to do in the future with remote, with broadcasting from data centers, essentially, with remote transmitter sites.
I know a lot of folks may bristle at that idea. Wait a minute, radio is already impersonal enough. If we broadcast from a cold data center, what's that? And they are cold. What's that going to do to radio? Well, it's all in how you use it.
Yeah, I mean, we have local voice trackers, and with virtualization, it does not mean that you can't have a local studio with people in it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the radio automation system they were talking about earlier today, is it cloud.radio?
Radio.cloud.
Radio.cloud, was exactly that. I mean, you could do live assist from that machine. So even the station that I virtualized, we have an entry point and a local studio, and you can easily switch back and forth. So the difference is that it makes it so much easier to manage. In our case, we rolled our own, and we have a data center very close to where myself and my assistant live. So we're only a little while away as opposed to 4 hours away from our farthest market. So in most times when we're just voice tracked or whatever, everything is right nearby. And then if they need to go live, and they do, they can just pop into the studio, hit a button, and they're live. So I really believe that this is going to be the future, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later.
I believe that we're going there. I mean, the banking industry, stock markets, so many things you can do online now. And I think a lot of your user experience in doing that, for example, I changed banks about 9 months ago. And the bank I'm with now, their website is just terrific. Everything I wanted, it's right there. It's super duper convenient.
Right.
And while I was transitioning, I could even do banking at my old bank from the web interface of my new bank. It was just nuts.
Yeah. And just the savings, the cost savings for broadcast by doing this. I mean, you're not buying redundant gadgets for each building that you have. Yeah. You can multiply, put a bunch of playoff systems on one machine with a backup, and you're done. And you can manage that all, right in one place.
I think from a talent perspective also, that talent can work from where maybe they're most comfortable. It's a beautiful day. I don't have to go in the station. I can do my afternoon show from the deck of my house. If I get a mic that doesn't have wind noise, right? It opens up a lot of, and I can bring an old friend in from somewhere. I got a friend in La Crosse. Love to have him on the show today. Let's bring him in.
And I think that actually that helps kind of reduce voice tracking a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we do have a distributed workforce. So our people voice track, they do with just-in-time voice tracking. So they'll voice track and then immediately dump it into the system to play in the next break. Well, with this kind of a system, they don't even need to do that. They can be live from wherever they're at, which is fantastic. We're saving money on, facilities and all those types of things because we're able to shrink down the amount of space we need. We're investing a ton of money in our one facility where we're beefing up things and putting all of our eggs. But then all these remote markets, we're able to, kind of reduce the amount of space we lease and save money that way.
When like Satellite Music Network came along in, the late 1980s, mid 1980s, some stations used it really well, and it sounded they localized it. And other stations, oh man, that's pretty bad.
Put into it, yeah. I mean, you can make it sound really good. You can make it sound really bad. I think with our stations, you never know. So yeah, I mean, it's a tool like anything else.
And one of my points this morning in my presentation was, gentlemen, ladies, this is there are skills here you need to learn.
Right. Yes.
This is going to happen.
Right.
It'll leave you behind, or you can be part of it.
And it's just like when computers first started getting into broadcast. Same thing. The guys who are transmitter guys, it's like, hey, if you don't get into this computer thing, you're going to get left behind. So, again, a lot of times in broadcast, we love to go into new technology kicking and screaming. We don't want to. But then when you do it, you realize all of these advantages. My coworker who owns our stations is that way. We really didn't dip our toes into this new stuff until I came on board. And now he's all in. I mean, he sees the advantages of this new technology and is encouraging me to keep, look even further. So, if you're not doing it now, you're gonna.
Chris, we've got some guests waiting in the wings, and Mark Persons and Jim Ragsdale did a little quick tour of the old equipment in the SBE booth here.
Oh, nice.
And so I'm going to ask Suncast if he can have that ready. We're going to roll it, I think, now. And can you come back in a few minutes to talk about the Angry Audio thing?
Can we talk about it now?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I'm walking the floor. I got some people.
All righty. Well, I'll tell you what. Suncast, change of plan.
Sorry, Suncast.
No worries. I'll tell you what, and then we got Mr. Max Connect right behind you. So this will work great.
He's one of the guys I got to see.
So tell you what, I'm going to do-si-do with you. You hold the mic.
Okay.
You talk about what you're going to talk about.
Awesome.
And I'm going to go get what he's going to talk about.
All right. Very good. So let me look into the camera here. Hi. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So we're going to talk about Angry Audio real quick, and today is a great day to do that. We're here at the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Broadcasters Clinic because one of the things that we love to talk about here is ways to simplify our everyday operations. We're always looking for tips and tricks. And as a matter of fact, we have a session tonight called Nuts and Bolts, which is all about ways to, make our lives easier. And that is really what Angry Audio is all about. They have the gadgets to make your life easier. Things from headphone gadgets to microphone gadgets. Remember the days when we used to do remote on-off buttons with relays for microphones? Those days are gone. You can buy the mic gadget, plug it in with, by the way, Studio Hub connectors, and you're ready to go. Same thing with the headphones. Instead of having to, put in a little headphone jack and a volume control and everything else, you have got one unit, again, with Studio Hub. And you can even daisy chain them and put multiple boxes together. And with one of the greatest things about the design is they thought about knees going underneath the table. So instead of having sharp corners on the bottoms of the boxes, they round them. So if you hit your knee on it, skims right by. So that's one of the many things, if you check out their site at angryaudio.com, that you're going to find. Studio Hub connectors, all kinds of gadgets to make your life easier. And of course, all of the new processors and things that Corny is coming out with. We're very excited about that. So don't get frustrated, get angry. Angryaudio.com. You can also get them at Broadcasters General Store. Check them out today. So here's Kirk waiting to get back in.
Thanks, Chris.
Can we dance?
Chris is going to in the dancing booth, ladies and gentlemen. It's Chris Tarr. Hey, our show is also brought to you by Max Connect Wireless.
I ordered another Max Connect today.
Good.
So,
Woo. Okay, you got me beat now. I only have two. Hi, Josh Bonus here.
Folks.
Usually I talk about Max Connect, or we get Gary Morrill or
Yep.
John Tockock to talk about it.
Yep.
But Josh Bonus here. Josh, you take the microphone.
Hi.
Tell our friends why Max Connect is so amazing.
Because it's amazing. No, Max Connect, the prioritized wireless internet solution that everybody's dreamed of, and we've got over 1,000 of them deployed nationwide, all three carriers.
I need to be on your Christmas list.
You are. But no, it's it will give you. It's got a public static IP. It will give you the connectivity you need at your transmitter site, at your remotes, compatible with all the major codecs. You can buy whether it's a Comrex or a Tie-Line or whatever. Even the ones with the little internal modems. You just get the SIM, stick it in there, set the APN, and off you go. Yep.
Okay, because it's not about the piece of hardware.
No.
It's about the SIM card and the work you've done with the carriers.
Correct.
To make that SIM card mean something for broadcasters.
Yes, and that's the big difference. Is there's no hardware magic. Oh, thank you. There's no hardware magic to this. It doesn't matter. You can bring your own. We have people that are using Cradle Points. We have people that are using some random off-brand they bought on eBay for $39. As long as you can stick a SIM card in it, set the APN, you get the priority, you get the service that you need. We've got new plans coming. We've got new service tiers coming. We have new hardware now. We offer our own brand of Max Connect branded hardware. We've got Category 6 modems, which will theoretically do 300 by 150 in lab conditions. Don't expect that actually at a remote, but that's what they say it'll do. But the cool thing about that is a phenomenon called carrier aggregation, where in a Category 6 modem, the device will actually start multiple data sessions on the carrier and aggregate those speeds together to give you more download and upload speed. It's a really neat product that we've had a lot of people that do high school sports and things like that with it, where they're trying to do audio and video to the internet.
Yeah.
That's worked very, very well. And it's a lot more cost effective than the TV grade multi-SIM bonding routers that cost $4,000 and $5,000. So, but yeah, a month. Yeah.
Hey,
TV people have that money. We don't.
If people want to get a Max Connect service, what do they do?
MaxConnect.com.
Funny.
MaxConnect.com.
In the show notes of This Week in Radio Tech. Perfect. So thanks a lot, Josh.
Excellent.
Hey, listen, I appreciate your service to the industry because you're thinking on this and actually making it happen. Is valuable.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate that, and glad to be able to help.
Quick question: do you like old equipment? I mean, just to look at it, to reminisce.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Now, you're not very old, so you may not know about old.
Listen, Grandpa.
And do you know Mark Persons?
I do.
Okay, well, a little while ago, Mark and I and Jim Ragsdale with SBE, shot a little video over at the SBE booth on the floor here, and we get a tour of what Jim Ragsdale has a couple things to say, and then Mark Persons gives us a tour of a console that he installed one just like it in 1964.
I saw that earlier. I need to go check that out.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at it.
This is Jim Ragsdale at the Society of Broadcast Engineers booth at the Madison, Wisconsin Broadcasters Clinic. And Mark Persons here is going to introduce some antique equipment that we have here that Mark knows a lot more about than I do.
Well, thank you, Jim. I remember this equipment from the 1960s, specifically this ATC cart machine, one of the first cart machines ever built, and it's tubes, not transistors or ICs, but real tubes. And it had its own mechanical and electronic problems along the way. Specifically, I remember this, the Gates Yard audio console. And why is it called the Yard? Well, it's 36 inches wide. And this one, from 1964, uses tubes. That's the Gates Yard 1. I loved it. It was the technology of the day, worked like $1 million until one morning when the announcer, the morning man, was drinking coffee. He put his coffee cup on top of the console and accidentally tipped it, and the coffee ran down inside onto the program amplifier, and all of a sudden the audio just went away. And so I came running in. What happened? Okay, he told me. I started blowing. I blow dried the program amplifier, and slowly the audio came back up. That was the solution to the problem at that moment. So that's why you have an engineer handy at all times back in the day to fix problems like that, because I knew exactly what happened. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. That was 1964 when I built the radio station when I was 15 years old.
Well, thanks, Mark. I'm here looking for new SBE members. We're always interested in building the organization, and I know there are a lot of excellent broadcast engineers out here who would benefit from being a part of our organization, and we would benefit from your presence. Thank you.
Thanks a lot to Mark Persons and Jim Ragsdale for that quick tour of some equipment from the 1950s and 60s. And I think I took a couple of those consoles out of service. And Mark put one in service.
Yeah, that stuff all kind of predates me.
Yeah. Ooh, you didn't put up with tubes, did you?
No, I didn't, thankfully. Yeah.
Hey, this tall guy right here is Shane Tobin. Hi, Shane.
Hey, Kirk.
Good to see you.
It's always good to be seen.
How are the dogs?
They are wonderful and as goofy as ever. I can look forward to a giant 92-pound mutt pouncing on me when I get home. So, yeah.
Talk to me about coming here to Wisconsin. You don't live around here anymore. You used to live, at least in Minnesota, right?
Right, yeah. I grew up in Minnesota. I'm originally from northern Minnesota. Got my start at KAXE up there in Grand Rapids.
You live in California now. You're a long way from home.
I do. I moved from Minnesota to Michigan to Wyoming to California. So I've been there for the last couple of years now and really enjoying it, especially the weather.
So what brings you back to this show, the Wisconsin Broadcasters Clinic?
You know, for me, this is just kind of a must-attend show. I mean, I love reconnecting with all my peers here from the Midwest, and it's like homecoming week. It's awesome to come out here every year, and you know, especially now that we're back on after the post-pandemic and all that fun stuff. You know, it's just good to reconnect.
You've been working with EMF, Electronic Media Foundation, K11 Air One are the brands that we all know. What is keeping you busy these days?
Mostly travel, stuff like this. I have spent, I think, pretty much all of October on the road and most of September on the road. So coming up, I have a couple of weeks in the office, but
they don't let you just drive around aimlessly or use up airline miles. So what are you doing on the road?
So a lot of like last week, I was actually in Washington, D.C. at the NAB headquarters. I was there for the NAB Radio Technology Committee meeting. And let's see, the week before that, I was up in Syracuse, New York, SBE national meeting. Boy, it's all become such a blur now. I don't even remember where I was the week.
Seems like you were at least off the mainland in the not too distant past, weren't you? Off the mainland, was it Puerto Rico, or am I thinking of something?
Puerto Rico. I've been to Puerto Rico. Actually, I've got a trip planned. Down to one of your stations down in American Samoa coming up in November here. Okay. So, yep.
Last time we talked to you at length, I think you were on a cruise ship.
Yeah, in fact, I was.
This EMF thing sounds like a cushy gig. Do you actually, change transmitters and troubleshoot things, or?
Actually, I do. I do get out to transmitter sites. That's the other part of my job, is getting out there, and usually a lot of HD radio deployments. I'll help assist with those, and make sure that all the digital stuff is working the way it needs to.
I'd like to ask you about that for a minute, and that is, it seems like whenever I travel and punch up to my local K-Love or Air One station, I seem to find that you guys are doing your FM RDS very well. And when you have HD channels, I see artwork on there. Maybe not the album art, but at least I see the station logo and good text on there. You guys seem to have, I guess, a formula to make this work at if not all your stations, a good majority of them now.
Yeah, and this ad and this RDS data, I mean, it is something that's really important to us. It's just one of those parts of the listener experience. I mean, whether they notice it or not, we want to make sure that that's correct, and that the listeners are seeing the same kind of experience they would get from any other medium that they're used to, whether that be satellite or their Spotify or whatever. And yeah, we do put the logos up there on HD on a lot of our stations, and we've just kind of started rolling out the album art to some of our HD stations as well. So looking forward to more and more of that.
You've got studios in Franklin, Tennessee, just down the road from me. Your colleague Bill Jackson has worked on those a lot. You've been there. How's that working out? Is there anything you can tell me about operationally what you guys are doing in Franklin with these new studios?
Yeah, I mean, most of the on-air staff is down there in Franklin now. Still have a little bit of stuff originating out of Rockland. But yeah, we've got iPorts connecting all the facilities up, and it's working really well. Just kind of keeping everybody connected and getting audio back and forth. That main uplink is still in Rockland, so we have to send audio back from Franklin to Rockland, and again comes over the iPort and works great.
I'm not going to try to surprise you with a question, but so if you can say, Kirk, that's really not my wheelhouse, that's fine. I'm curious, you guys have such a nationwide footprint, and yet you have the ability to go locally or at least regionally to give emergency information. Do you see that there might be some changes in our national emergency alert system that might make the rules either easier to follow or maybe make more sense in a network or regionally operated scenario, instead of every single station having to maintain local EAS gear? Am I thinking on the right track? Where do you kind of see that going, if you can say anything about it?
Sure. I mean, well, as far as networks go, the biggest thing has been everything right now is moving towards software, virtual components, and my stuff included. I mean, I'm looking at that for our deployments as well in the field, and how we can apply those technologies. The one component that can't be virtualized just yet is the EAS component, and some of these rule changes may actually kind of help move toward that direction, to where we can have better emergency alerting to the public. I mean, we have the ability to do local broadcasts, through other means, like over our satellite network. Like we broke away during Hurricane Ian and broadcast down there for that region. I mean, we were in the middle of a pledge drive everywhere else. But we broke away down there for those listeners. And so I really do think that some of the rules that are coming along will help ultimately in the long run.
I'm no FCC attorney, but I got to believe that some larger nationwide or large regional broadcasters applying for maybe initially waivers of FCC rules. Hey, let us try this and see how it works. I would like to see some EAS rules changed, to bring them more up to date. Yes, I want to inform the public. Yes, I want officials to have a way to get to the public quickly. But I got to believe there's some better ways than what we've been doing.
Sure, and I mean one of the ones that I've kind of been really pushing on is the audio quality of the alerts, because a lot of times you'll get you'll get alerts from like the National Weather Service, or you'll get alerts from upstream stations or whatever, and it just sounds and you're wondering what that alert just was. I mean, you heard the tones, you heard this muddled mess of audio, and then you're like, okay, what the heck was that? So I think things like CAP, for instance, CAP has the ability to actually attach audio files to messages. So if that could be preferred, for instance, like if there's an audio file attached to a message, oh man, please play that out. Don't play the forwarded mess from the daisy chain. And the daisy chain still has its place. I mean, ultimately, if all else fails, that'll still work to get messages out to the public. But there are cleaner and better ways of doing that now in this day and age.
I agree. I agree. Shane, thank you very much for your time and effort. I appreciate it. It's always good to see you. Say hi to your lovely wife for me, would you?
Always a pleasure, and I will absolutely do so.
Right. And the dogs. Give the dogs a little hug.
Will do.
All right.
Thanks, Kirk.
Shane Toman. Shane is with Electronic Media Foundation, EMF KE11, and Air One. And who's waiting in the wings here? I believe Paul Kriegler is waiting for us. And to bring you up to date, we are broadcasting today live. If you're joining us live on Tuesday, we're replaying this on Thursday. So, hey, if you join us at the regular time on Thursday, that's great. This actually happened a couple days before. But we're in Madison, Wisconsin, at the Marriott Hotel here, and we're at the the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Broadcasters Clinic. Ooh, that's a lot of syllables, and it's a terrific engineers conference where a lot of high level stuff is talked about, current technology is talked about, tips and tricks, of course, are talked about. There's a nuts and bolts session tonight that Tim Wright is putting on, and he's always amazing. He's a smart, clever guy. And speaking of smart and clever, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you, Kurt.
It's Paul Kriegler. Hey, Paul.
Where is he? Here? No, sorry.
So, Paul, I appreciate you letting us use the van. What drew me over to it was the free candy sign on the front. That's pretty clever.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Paul Kriegler is a former program director, music director, audio processing expert. And I mean, he's a little humble about it, but he knows when things are right. He knows when things are wrong. And he's formed some good opinions over the years with lots of experience with this. So, Paul, welcome to the show This Week in Radio Tech.
Good to be back. It's been a long time. Last time I saw you was in Austin when it was 102 degrees, and now it's a beautiful, balmy 65 out. It's great.
Yeah. And hey, the rain has held off a bit. We got a few sprinkles earlier.
It is so nice being back in Madison. It's been 3 long years with the pandemic not being. It's been 3 years since I've been back here. It's so great to be back in Madison.
Now, this is basically your vehicle.
No, this is our vehicle. So we off who drives this thing around the country, and it's back on the road. We've got some new additions.
How about if I give you the mic and I step out of the way and let the folks at home see what's, and I'll just get my body out of the way.
Sure.
So you call me back.
Yeah, one of the coolest things though that I've got here is the Quasar. This Quasar Soft. If you can take a picture, that is the Quasar Soft. So this is the software version of the Quasar, which is the hardware console down here. So the meters, the faders, everything will follow with what's going on the screen up here, which is just that's by far the neatest thing that I've got that people have been impressed by so far. I'm having the demo here at the Wisconsin Broadcasters. And of course, over here, we've got the Omnia 9, the Mark II version doing live wire here in the van. And I'm running NF remote. Of course, I'm dialed into the Omnia 9. Omnia 9, which is back here in the back of the van. Wake up. Good morning. There we are. There's the Omnia 9 in the back of the rack, and it's doing all the processing here. And then that's the remote control for the Omnia 9 right there, the running NF remote. This is a new guy here in the van. We took out the IQ console, and we've replaced it with the IQ-X. So we were able to give up a couple of cores, which were driving the old IQ console, and the rack console that we have over here. So this is a brand new IQ-X console that we have here in the van. Some new additions over here. Got the MPX node back over here. This was robbed for me during the pandemic because demand has been so ultra high for these. And we sold a lot of these over the last couple of years. Got an MPX node. I can send composite audio to it from my hardware Omnia 9. I've got a copy of Omnia 9 Enterprise S over here running on this Windows machine over here. I can send composite to the MPX node. I've got a composite switch here in the middle. And the only way I think to do a proper audio processing demo for FM is to be able to immediately switch composite feeds, sending that to the exciter and hearing it through a radio, and can do just exactly that here. Yeah, I can do an AM audio processing demo with the Omnia 9, send AM audio out to the Quasar so you can hear that the Omnia 9 is an awesome AM FM simulcast processor. I've got a radio here in the van to monitor different radio stations as we drive around the country. And what else have we got? That's all that's new, but of course we've got all the streaming gear. We've got the Zip 1 over here, the Zip Stream R2 for streaming, the Zip Stream R1 down here. Pretty soon we'll have a PDM 2 here to replace this old PDM here. That's...
What's that big Haas processor right there?
Oh, the big one here? That's the Omnia 11 running 4.0. I'm just a little bit partial to this big guy here. It's still my favorite, most analog, big sounding audio processor in the van. But yeah, that's everything we got here in the back of the van. Some linear acoustic products.
Oh yeah, for television.
For TV, yeah, we've got the Aero T. We've got the ARC unit down here, the Aero 10 here. Here's the Quasar engine way down here. That's the Quasar engine, which looks a lot like the Aero 10. But yeah, that's a powerful 64-channel mix engine that runs the Quasar.
Let's talk about the Omnia 9 SG for just a minute. I know that a lot of people use this, a combination of something else and the 9SG as their secret sauce to be the ultimate FM processing combo, and also kind of the ultimate backup, because the 9SG, it's the best kept secret we have in the processing business. Talk to me about what people are doing who kind of really know what they're doing.
So one of the things you can do with a 9SG is put a different dynamic section in front of it. A lot of customers like to use an Omnia 9 in front of an 9SG. I feel that, and this is all subjective, of course, with an Omnia 11, you can create a lot of dynamics with, using solar plexus in the Omnia 11. There's all kinds of bass controls that you can do here in the 11 that you can't do in any other audio processor. You've got perfect declipper in the 11. So when you use a 9SG, what I would suggest to somebody, and I can help the customer if they want to try this combo, is use the 11 and think of it more as a real fancy AGC, where you're doing a lot of your dynamics, heavy lifting, and split your processing, and use the 9SG. Doing it that way, you basically use the 9SG as a combination limiter and clipper. But what's great about the 9SG is it does RDS, and it does all that embedding, so you don't lose the modulation to your stereo pilot or your RDS. It's got the most powerful built-in dynamic RDS generator on the planet. You can stream to it. It's got an emergency backup. You can stream to it. It's got a second composite input. Should it ever die at your transmitter site, it will fail over to a second input. And let's say you've got, a 9SG at every transmitter site. Maybe you're in a big market. Maybe you're in New York. Maybe you've got 3 different transmitter sites as an emergency backup. You can have a 9SG at every transmitter site, have one Omnia 11 doing your backup or doing your main on-air watermarking and all that at the studio, and have a B chain, but send that out to every transmitter site so that you have the ultimate in redundancy. There you go.
All excellent advice. Wow. What do you see station engineers and program directors looking for these days? For years we had loudness wars, and I kind of feel like loudness and presence are important, but they are not the be all end all everything. What are some of the important factors that stations are asking you about these days?
Good question. So one of the things that I think that we need to do as a processor manufacturer to respond to customers is to make processing easier. To make it easier to set up audio processing, to get a good sound faster with less heavy lifting or less processing knowledge. And we've got a new audio processor coming called Forza, and that is what the overall, overarching goal to that processor has been, is trying to get a good sound real easy. And I think that, to me, is where the rubber meets the road. To make the difficult stuff, getting a really good, clean, consistent, easy to listen to sound, do that and make it easy and accessible for everybody.
I think you're exactly right. Nobody has time to tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak on their processor.
Right.
Paul, thank you very much for letting us do our show in your van. I appreciate
Ta-da! Thank you.
it. Paul's going to have to wipe the free candy sign off the front of the van. And I want to thank my co-host, Chris Tarr. Chris had to run out and see a few more appointments here at the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Broadcasters Clinic. And really, that's about it for us. You got some tips from Paul there about audio processing. If you missed him, rewind the tape, so to speak. Watch it again. He really knows what he's talking about. Thanks to Telos Alliance for, again, providing this van, letting us use it here. If this van is coming to your area, I would definitely suggest you talk to Paul and get an appointment to get in here. He brings it to trade shows, sometimes to SBE meetings and other events like that where engineers are likely to be. Again, thanks to Chris Tarr for co-hosting the show and taking care of part of that. Thanks also to Suncast for being our producer today. I want to thank Paul Kriegler for being my talent wrangler today, keeping people in the on-deck circle here. Really made things go a whole lot better for the show. I do appreciate that. We're going to see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.